Hashem's name will be blessed forever and ever. Shalom, everyone. We are continuing with our halacha class. We are going to continue with Passover. We want to dedicate this Torah class for Asher Lema. Any names you want to mention, please do so. And especially for our troops in Eretz Israel, the soldiers, may they come back home safely. Amen. So today, I just want to remind you that this coming Shabbat, we have Shabbat. It's called Shabbat HaChodesh. It's the Shabbat prior the month of Nisan, when we announce the beginning of the month of Nisan. And it's called Shabbat HaChodesh. HaChodesh means the month. HaChodesh, the month. We're going to have 2 books on Shabbat morning. And this is just a reminder. The next topic we will discuss, Be'ezrat Hashem, God willing, is what we're supposed to do in the beginning of the month of Nisan. So in the month of Nisan, which is the head of all the other months according to the Torah, as we explained last week, we have a very special mitzvah. Very special mitzvah, something that we do once a year. For some of us, it might be too late, and you will see in a minute why. Does anybody knows what I'm referring to? It's called Birkat HaIlanot, the special blessing for the Ilamot, the blessing over blossoming fruit trees. I don't know if you ever heard something like that, but if someone, the halacha says the following: if someone goes out during the month of Nisan and sees blossoming trees, he must recite the following blessing. This is translation to in English. May you, Hashem, our God, King of the universe, be blessed, who has left nothing missing in his world, and who has created good creatures and good trees for people to benefit from them. Our sages basically here institute this blessing since this wonderful phenomenon occurs only annually, and it always is a renewal in the eyes of people. The trees lay dormant all winter, leafless and dry. And now the Blessed Holy One has made them flower anew. One may recite this blessing only once a year. So it depends where you live. If you live in the land of Israel, most of trees blossoming during the month of Nisan, in the beginning of the month of Nisan. So you can see blossoming trees. If there is no more small flowers on the trees, it might be too late, and we'll see it in a minute. So normally we will do that at the beginning of the month of Nisan. But if you live in, I don't know, Europe or any other place that the blossoming season started earlier, you don't wait till Nisan. You have to start it earlier. Especially in America, for example, we had 2 months of Adar. 2 months of Adar. You know, the English calendar doesn't wait for us. So you might miss some this bracha, this blessing. Therefore, you can and you should do it before that. Sorry, it's upside down today. Okay, so now who is obligated to do this blessing? A man, woman. The halacha says men and women are equally obligated to recite the blessing over the blossoming trees during the month of Nisan. If you want to know the nusach, there is some prayers that we do prior to the blessing, and there's special prayers we're adding after. In many sidurim, you will have the introduction, maybe with some explanation, and so forth and so on. So you got to be. You can download it probably. Or every siddur should have this special bracha. Now, the next halacha is a little bit strange, and this is something I want to discuss with you. what we understand so far, that we should seek from today for a blossoming trees in order to do this blessing. And sooner the better, especially when we had Adar Aleph and Adar Bet, 2 months of Adar. But the next halacha is a bit strange. Why? Because the halacha says the following. It is commendable to recite the blessing of the blossoming trees over trees planted in an orchard outside the city. This is not absolutely imperative. However, if it would be difficult to take a trip out of the city because one is too busy or weak to make such a trip, one may recite the blessing over trees growing inside the city. One may certainly do so if going out will cause one to lose time from Torah study. It is permissible to recite this blessing at night as well, as long as one can see the blossoms in the trees using electric light. Okay? Can someone tell me what's the big deal in going outside the land? The halacha care of our free time to go make some trip with the family? What's the idea behind going outside of the city? What if I have in my backyard just a few steps? Behind the pool there, right? You have a pool? You don't have a pool, right? So I have in my backyard trees, blossoming trees, fruit trees. Let me do the blessing there. ¿Por qué no? So, yes, please, guys, someone his phone is on. Thank you. So let me share with you. I don't know if anybody shared that on the chat, but smell before. Okay, I will try to address the questions later. But the idea is very simple. It's connected to Kabbalah, connected to Gilgul, to the Zohar. You know that people can, after the neshama leave this world, they go through a trial in Shamayim, in heaven. And it will be determined if they go to hell, if they go to heaven, if they go back to Gilgul, reincarnate to this world. Right? One can be reincarnate in different forms and shapes. Okay? You can be reincarnate as a human being. You can be reincarnated into an animal, or lower than that, it's called tzomeach, to a vegetable, fruit, trees, whatever, or to an inanimate object. Okay, for another time to discuss how it works, right? So now tell me, what's the idea of going out of the city to far orchards? Because we suspect that in far orchards there are some neshamot, some souls reincarnates. And when we go there, all the way, make the efforts, we saying the special blessings, we free these neshamot, we helping with their tikkun, rectify few, dozens, hundreds, thousands, I don't know how many. And we're doing a great service, a great mitzvah for these neshamot. Poor people, poor neshamot, poor souls, nobody comes. Every year people doing in the backyards. So this is why it's a great mitzvah to make these efforts. Make sense now? So let me just read it. I think I should have it in the introduction here. Okay. All right. Harav Palachi in Sefer Moed Lakol exalted the virtue and importance of the mitzvah of reciting the annual blessing over the blossoming fruit trees. He explained that when we recite this blessing, it can free the souls that have been entrapped and reincarnated in the soil and the plants of the field, enabling them to finally reach their resting places in heaven. The source for this concept can be found in the Holy Zohar, Volume 3, Parashat Balak. Okay, page 196b. Okay? So, all right. So when we do such kindness, such chesed to these neshamot, they will thank us. When our neshama will reach its place, they will wait for us and will testify to our own benefit, that we free them and we should be freed as well. Measure for measure, midah keneged midah. So many people make that efforts to go outside. That could be a serious task. It's not so easy because you don't really know where to go unless you know an orchard. So you have to do some, research. Where I could go, where I can stop. You have to be careful not to go out to other people's property with no permission. You have to be careful with that, okay? So, anyways, it's a great mitzvah to do within your, city or eruv or place, neighbor, or whatever, or definitely outside the city. Any questions? All right. Moving on.
One quick question, Rabbi.
Yes.
Are you supposed to say the bracha on something that you have not smelled before, on a flower you have not smelled before, or it doesn't matter?
It doesn't matter. As long as it's blossoming, you see it. If you can't see it, use a flashlight. It means that you can do it even at night. Go ahead. What about Shabbat, by the way? Can I do it on Shabbat? We'll see in a minute. Yes. I'm sorry?
Just one. Minimum is just one.
What?
There's a minimum. Is there a minimum? I mean, you say
one time.
This was to say it on one thing.
You said one time. One time this year. You said one time this year. That's it. If you missed it, you have to wait for next year. If you don't, okay. As long as it's blossoming, you can do it. Even if you go, you did it here, let's say in Dallas, and then you go for a trip in Florida or Europe, and you see another blossoming trees, you can't say it again. You already did. Okay. How many people should participate? It is highly commendable for people to form a group of at least 10 men to go together to recite the blessing over the blossoming trees in the proper frame of mind. And then to recite Psalms 126 and 148. After they should recite the regular Kaddish with Yeheh Shelamar Rabam. So this is what we did every year. I don't know if you remember that. In the shul, we did every year. And if you don't have a minyan, don't wait for a minyan. Just go ahead and do it. Okay? If you wait for... Sometimes you wait and they miss it and you missed it. Okay? Now, what kind of trees? It is recommended that when several people, okay, so we'll go together, one will say the bracha out loud and everyone will say it silently. This blessing may be recited over blossoming fruit trees, but not over trees that have spring blossoms and do not produce fruits. If someone did recite the blessing over barren trees, he may not recite the blessing a second time over fruit trees. He already said that. He was supposed to learn the halacha. He didn't. He already made a bracha. It's enough. Okay? It's still a tree. It's still God's creation, right? But the best of the best is blossoming trees, fruit trees. So what kind of trees? Can I do over 2 trees of the same kind, or I can do I have to find 2 different kinds. Okay? So technically, one may recite the blessing in the presence of 2 blossoming trees, even if they are the same species. It is more praiseworthy to recite the blessing in the presence of a number of species of flowering fruit trees. When only one blossoming fruit tree is available, that is, of course, sufficient. Okay? It is permissible to recite this blessing over the lemon tree in bloom, even though the fruits of the trees are not edible unless mixed with other foods. What really matters is that people gain physical benefit from the fruit of the trees. Following this reasoning, it is permissible to recite this blessing over rose bushes if the blossoms can be used for jam and they have a pleasant fragrance. Okay? The fact that they have pleasant fragrance doesn't mean that they must have. They can. The next one, okay, I'm not going to skip it. Let's do it. Some poskim ruled that one may not recite this blessing over trees that have one species grafted onto another. Why not? Since their existence is against God's wishes, and it is improper to thank Him for this existence. Other poskim ruled, other rabbis ruled, that one may recite the blessing over these trees, since the blessing is not to thank God for these particular trees, but rather to thank Him for the creation of the world in general. Technically, no one can protest against someone who relies on this lenient opinion, but if someone asks a rabbi the halacha in such case, the rabbi should advise him not to recite the blessing, since we never recite the blessing whenever its validity is in doubt. Make sense? Any questions? You good?
I have one, Rabbi.
What is it?
Now, can you say the bracha on a shrub bearing, blossoming
Yes.
bush?
The answer,
I would say a shrub.
it has to be a tree. If not, you can do it over a shrub or a bush, like we said about the roses. Okay?
Okay.
Yeah. So, what age of the tree? If I planted it just last year, is 2 years old, 1 year old. How old the trees should be?
Question here. This is the interpreter. Does that mean when you go to the tree, what do you mean by, resurrection? The resurrection, the body. Is it at the tree, or what? Can you explain more about that?
Who's asking?
Not the sorry, just a moment. Reincarnated. The reincarnation, that piece. Can you explain that a little bit more?
Okay, this is not our topic, but I'm just going to tell you in a nutshell.
I know. It's not exactly what you had said. I'm just curious. I know it's not part of the lecture. Just was wondering. You touched on it before with reincarnation.
Okay, so our neshamot.
Just recently.
Okay, can you hear me? So the neshamot, when someone passes away from this, he died from this world, the neshama goes to another world. And in heaven, it will be determined if the neshama goes back to rectify for whatever, and in which form and shape, either to a human being or animal, or lower than that, vegetables, fruits, or to an inanimate object, okay, according to that person's actions. When one said this blessing over fruit, the blessing over blossoming trees, and if there is a neshama, a soul there, he will free this neshama. By the way, this is something we can do every day by saying a simple blessing over tree, over fruit, over vegetable that we eat. It might be a neshama in our table. Okay? The Mekubalim, the great rabbis that can see the special aura, special light that comes from every object, people, human being, vegetable, fruit, whatever, they will go to a basket of fruit and choose the right apple. They say, give me, this one, give me this one. They know which one to go, and they will say the bracha loudly, word by word, and then by doing that, rectifying the neshama. Just so you know, if there's a neshama there, and you didn't say a blessing, this neshama will suffer a lot, and has maybe to come back, who knows where, and one day they will wait for you to take you to the heavenly court for being able to free them, and you didn't do it, and you make them suffer for much longer time. This is why, on the esoteric and the Kabbalah side, very important to say bracha over everything. So you don't want to have an army of neshamot coming against you now. Okay? What do I do if I learned it today? I know it's April Fool today, April 1, right? But everything I'm telling you is true. April Fool is just, I don't know, it's a date it's not a Jewish date.
So we need to have...
There's no meaning. But I'm telling you, you can rectify for skipping brachot by making tshuva, confess, say, Hashem, I did a mistake, I didn't know. From now on, I'll make extra effort to say bracha over everything I put in my mouth. And not only that, I'm going to learn to spend a few minutes a day to learn the laws of halacha, the halacha of the blessing. Okay, and that way you rectify, you fix all previous mistakes and actions. Okay, makes sense? Did I answer your question? Okay, let's move on.
Yep, I think so.
So what age the tree should be? It is
That was a weird thing.
It is
Just
permissible.
wanted to know about that. Just curious.
What's your name?
Yeah, this is Max here, speaking through an interpreter.
Oh, Max to interpreter. Okay, I understand. Okay, it is permissible to recite this blessing over blossoming trees during the first 3 years since their planting, even though the fruits that will grow on them this year will be orla. Orla, it's a name for fruits that grows in the first 3 years. And no one may have any benefit from them. We can eat it only in the 4th year. As long as their planting was not performed in sin, it is perfectly acceptable to bless God for these blossoms. Technically, it's God's creation. There's no problem with that. Okay. What about saying the bracha on Shabbat and Yom Tov? One in the middle of Shabbat says, "Oh, I forgot to say Birkat Ilanot. It's the last day of the month," or there is barely, flowers on this tree. If I wait till Sunday, it's all going to go away. Can I do it on Shabbat and Yom Tov? The halacha says it is permissible to recite the blessing over blossoming fruit trees on Shabbat or Yom Tov. Our sages. So, what about the fear of one may go and grab a fruit during Shabbat? Might break a branch. So our sages did not fear that someone might forget and pick some of the blossoms on Shabbat while admiring them. Nevertheless, it is best to postpone reciting this blessing to a weekday if there is no fear that the delay will cause one to lose the opportunity to recite it all together. Okay, make sense? Good. As we said, that it is best to recite during the month of Nisan, beginning of Nisan, not on Adar, not these days, unless you're in a place that there is a season.
Change.
There is a season when you are right. Can you check if they need the room? I see many people coming here. Can I ask maybe Rabbi Fangemam if they need that room? So it depends on the season and where you live. Remember that. If you wait and you lose the blessing, do it before. The best time is in the beginning of Nisan. And the halacha was talking the land of Israel. Okay? What if, it didn't say the blessing, the flowers are all gone, and now fruit comes out. The tree starts to produce fruit. Okay, forget it. If someone did not recite the blessing until the fruits have begun to grow, he may no longer recite the blessing once the blossoms have fallen off the trees. Although the fruits are still inedible, one may not recite the blessing. Nevertheless, if someone of the blossoms are still in bloom, one may recite the blessing even though those very trees have begun to grow fruits. So you see a tree, it's mixed with fruits and blossomings with flowers. Okay? Take advantage. You wait a day or two, it's all going to go away. Question. What about, hold on 1 second, what about a blind person? God forbid, a blind person. The halacha says you go out and you see trees, but this poor guy cannot see. So we know that a blind man has to do everything like everyone else. They have to keep Torah and mitzvot. They have to put tefillin, they have to pray, they have to say blessing before everything. You have to do everything like everyone else. But now the halacha was specific. You go out, you see, but he unfortunately cannot see. Is he off the hook, or you still have to stand with people and say the blessing? So the halacha says, a blind person may not recite these blessings, since the Talmud says specifically that it is necessary to see the blossoms. Since there are poskim who rule that even a blind person should recite the blessing, it is proper for him to listen to the cantor to recite it on his behalf. Because some says you should say, some says you should not say. So you know what? Go there, listen to someone else saying the blessing, and you'll fulfill the mitzvah by doing so, or doing that way. Okay. You wanted to ask a question?
Yeah. What about the trees with how they mixed?
Part fruit, part the grafted. What is it? Grafted. We talked about it already. Grafted, you still have to. You say it. You can say it. It's not the best choice, but you can say if you did, you fulfilled the blessings. We just say we can't protest those who hold in this leniency. Grafted trees, okay? Any more questions? So let's wrap it up. Before I go to the chat, let me see the chat. We have questions on the chat. What is this? Okay. The last halacha for today. Some poskim, notably the Shevet HaLevi, ruled that if someone has not seen any blossoming fruit trees, but he recited the blessing once he was told that the trees are in bloom, he may not recite the blessing a second time when he does see the blossoming trees. They understood that the Talmud did not mean that it is necessary to actually see the blossoms. Meaning, it was there, it says, can I say the bracha? Yeah. So he said the bracha. Later, he checked it out, there is no flowers. They're all gone. But in one hand, he said the bracha, and he didn't check it before. He doesn't have to say it again. The bracha didn't go away. It's going to go for another trees. It's about the creation of God. Other poskim rule that if someone has not seen the blossoming trees, his blessing does not count at all as a mitzvah. For this reason, the ruling in the previous halacha is that a blind person may not recite this blessing for himself. In practice, if someone did recite the blessing without seeing the blossoming trees, he may not recite it a second time when he does see them, following the rule never to recite a blessing when its necessity is in doubt. And believe me, it happens many times. I had people in my synagogue that we have a big crowd, and then the people ask in the back, is that tree? Which one? Oh, that's in the corner. Oh, it's flowering. We can see blossom. They rely on people's testimony. They don't really check. Okay? You have to check yourself. Another situation could be that someone do it over a tree that does not belong to him. It's also okay if you do it, let's say you have a neighbor that you have trees that belong to you, don't have one. It's best to ask permission Tell them I'm blessing your trees. You're going to bring blessing to your trees, to your family. Some people, I'm telling you, can be uncomfortable with you standing there, especially with a large group, with Siddur, praying over his tree. They think that you're putting a spell on him or something. It can be dangerous. Especially here in Dallas, they come out with a shotgun to you. Be careful. Okay, ask permission. Believe me, if you share that info that you're blessing with the trees and the family and the house, they'll be happy, and they invite you every year. Like we have here. We have neighbors, they're non-Jewish. They invite us every year to do that, and I think they know why. They got much blessing from that. I want to wish everybody a wonderful week. We are moving this class to Mondays now. Don't forget. So, wishing you Shavua Tov. All the best.
Thank you, Rabbi. Have a great evening, everyone.
Shavua Tov.
Shavua Tov.